South Korea hasn't escaped COVID, but its cases are 10 times lower than Canada's, in spite of a larger population crammed into a nation the size of southern Ontario. Key to South Korea's success is its first line of defense: intense, detailed screening for everyone arriving from abroad.
From the moment I landed to the moment I was at the airport, it took me over 24 hours.
We hired Seoul-based journalist Raphael Rashid to share with us the documentation of his return journey, beginning with a COVID test immediately on arrival.
And they took me out onto the tarmac near the runway to get tested. It was about minus 10 degrees, it was very windy, but obviously authorities were taking no chances.
They provided him a KN95 mask, isolating him and all other passengers, each signing a legal agreement to isolate for 2 weeks. But first, a bus takes them all to an airport holding area, providing meals while they wait. After 6 hours, some get to leave, but Raphael arrived from the UK, and because of its disastrous outbreak, health officials have other plans for him.
They were like, you're going to have to stay overnight because we need to rerun tests on your swab.
He's given a bed, still at the airport, more food, until finally, the next day, escorted to a sealed-up quarantine taxi and taken home.
And once I finish my self-isolation period, I'll be tested again. So I'd be taking a very, very big risk if I were to leave my house now. And face immediate deportation, which I would rather not do.
Is all this worth it in your mind?
Of course. I mean, for me, these are just small inconveniences.
It seems to work too. South Korea has had next to no travel-connected cases. And when it comes to time in quarantine... Hi, Hofer, I'm David.
Hi, David. It's Hofer. Nice to meet you.
Hofer Chen is something of an expert. How many times since COVID started have you done quarantine because of travel?
I've done 4 times. I'm coming to my 5th time of quarantine next week while I'm going back to Taiwan from China.
Hello, so this is how you travel in China. Basically, you need to scan a health code, and then if your code shows green light, you can pass.
We caught up with him in Shanghai, and with a job in China, a wife in Japan, and home in Taiwan, that's 70 days in isolation since COVID started. Each nation's entry requirement is also different.
In China, it's a forced centralized quarantine in designated hotels. In Hong Kong and Taiwan, you're allowed to do home quarantine, but it's also hard. Why? Because in Hong Kong, there's a location-based wristband that you need to wear, as well as they track your phone number, the signal, the location of the signal. So you need to wear that wristband. I've heard people who caught it intentionally, and then the police came over to the door.
In a highly publicized move in Taiwan, one man was even fined $4,500 for leaving his room for 8 seconds. Strict public adherence to the rules means Taiwan, home to 23 million people, can safely now hold large gatherings. They have reason to celebrate. Taiwan's only had 800 cases, just 7 deaths.
Here's the checkpoint.
And Hofer is now there, visiting his family, but first settling in for another 14-day quarantine. If it sounds tedious to you, consider Ireland's Lord of the Dance crew. They managed to, let's say, occupy themselves in this Taiwan hotel. No time to Netflix here, and no exceptions from the rules. The price of performing in the country is quarantine. One of the few nations in the world that can even have performances now, largely because they've got COVID under control. Across many Asian nations, the rules are strict, the consequences of breaking them stricter still. And it sends a signal. Travel is a privilege. When you return, the safety of society trumps any individual freedom. David Common, CBC News, Toronto.